Nintendo argues that customers in the United States got, quote, exactly what they bargained and paid for when buying Switch hardware whose prices have been raised due to tariffs that have since been ruled illegal here in the United States, meaning they don't owe anyone anything. Even if Nintendo gets the tariff refund, they're currently suing the US government to recoup. Welcome to Inside Games Daily, the only gaming news show brave enough to say Nintendo's totally out of line, but they're right.
Yeah, at least when it comes to legal proceedings. This is a real you control the stuff you buy kind of defense. And while Nintendo is arguing that they're not legally required to reimburse customers, they really ought to do something because it's not going to look good at all if they just pocket all that money. Speaking of tokens of goodwill, Brian, tell us about the story. How did we get here?
Oh man, it is a journey. So this comes from Stephen Totillo's Game File, and they reported on Nintendo's court filing yesterday, showing that at least in the courtroom, Nintendo has very little empathy for US customers that were forced to pay higher prices thanks to the illegal tariffs.
Okay, let's recap how we got into this situation because it's pretty complicated. Thanks to our president, Nintendo raised prices on the Nintendo Switch console and controllers for the Switch 1 and 2 throughout 2025 in response to Donald Trump's tariffs, and those were imposed by Donald Trump and the U.S. government.
Yes, but then, and this is the fun part, the United States Supreme Court actually found that those tariffs were legal in February 2026, and that ruling really set off a series of legal filings that we're just now starting to deal with.
Yeah, and weeks later, Nintendo filed a lawsuit against the U.S. Department of the Treasury to reclaim the money that they had paid in the tariffs that were subsequently ruled illegal.
Yeah, and then a few weeks after that, two plaintiffs filed a class action lawsuit against Nintendo in Washington state, reasonably claiming that it would constitute, quote, unjust enrichment for Nintendo to pocket all the money they might reclaim from the Department of the Treasury, which would violate Washington state consumer protection law.
Man, I sure would like it if some of those laws protected us here and there. Wouldn't that be great? But that brings us back to today, or rather yesterday specifically, when Nintendo's case filing claimed that they owe customers nothing, despite raising prices due to tariff costs that they may recoup down the line.
Yeah, and here's the money line. Nintendo bluntly claims that, quote, plaintiffs are not entitled to a rebate simply because of intervening legal developments related to tariffs.
I mean, yeah, they're right. It sucks. Nintendo, or rather Nintendo's lawyers, spell out their logic like this. So the quote is, the common thread among plaintiffs' claims is that it is somehow unfair that Nintendo has not retroactively adjusted its prices for completed sales in response to the outcome of the tariff litigation. But that is not how commercial transactions work.
God damn it. Yeah, it sucks. Nintendo then spells out kind of the basics of capitalism here. Nintendo set a price, customers saw and understood that price, and then with their own free will and the money they had earned, decided to pay it in exchange for what they would get. And there's a pretty big quote kind of going through all that.
Yeah, it said, those who bought Nintendo's products received exactly what they bargained and paid for. A console, game, and or accessory at a price to which both parties agreed. The money plaintiffs paid represents the purchase price of the goods they wanted and received. Plaintiffs are not entitled to a rebate simply because of intervening legal developments related to tariffs.
Okay, so Nintendo argues that if they're legally forced to pass on their tariff refunds, that it would then open the gates for any company to be legally required to perform retroactive refunds for any number of reasons. And by the way, there are a lot of companies getting sued right now for exactly that.
Yeah. Man, I just hope we squeeze something out of this ordeal. But yeah, Nintendo offers a few more nuanced arguments aside from you get what you pay for. This is kind of what happens with legal filings. You put your biggest argument up top and then like 2 or 3 more just in case that one falls through for some reason. They also claim in the filing here that they didn't just increase the prices of their goods the exact amount that they had to pay in tariffs. Instead, the filing reads here, Nintendo imposed modest and selective price adjustments, and it chose to bear the costs of tariffs on some of its most popular products of 2025, including its flagship console, the Nintendo Switch 2.
This, plus the fact that tariffs were not the only factor driving prices higher, like component costs and shipping costs, means that Nintendo could not possibly specify the dollar amount increase that would be attributed to just tariffs. So they're basically like, there's no way we could figure it out. And besides, we don't want to.
I'm going to say that's a lie. I'm sure they can figure it out because that's what
for sure.
giant companies do. They always go all the way down to the cent to figure out how much things cost them. But I understand what they're saying. Nintendo also trots out the old caveat emptor. And if you don't know what that phrase is, you're going to learn right now. Saying that customers could not have sustained monetary damage in buying a Switch because they could have just not bought it.
Yeah, no one forced you to. There was no Nintendo rep with a gun making you buy it. They write, quote, if a consumer did not want to pay the advertised price, they were free to abstain from purchasing the product or seek out competing products. Oh, yeah, not the only game console out there, and no one was making people buy it at the price, even though it might have been raised. So yeah, we kind of put it out at the intro. It's a bitter quote to read. It doesn't feel good at all to see any company say that, maybe about their customers, but I don't think they meant their customers to see that. You know, this is lawyers saying shit for legal reasons where they have every incentive to be as blunt and unfeeling as possible. But they ought to still do something nice for customers if they get this windfall, right? I don't know. That it would feel bad if Nintendo just pocketed all that money and moved on, right?
10 Club Nintendo points for everybody. That should make it right.
Yeah.
I mean, Lawrence is correct here. They should actually give us something, like maybe like an extra month of Nintendo. I like that you said a year of Nintendo Switch Online in the script. A month would be something. Just anything at all. I was just Googling because this is happening all over the United States here because of these illegal tariffs that Donald Trump put into effect. There are thousands of companies literally suing the U.S. government for these tariffs. FedEx, Costco, Revlon, BYD. There's a bunch that are doing this because these tariffs were illegal to begin with when Donald Trump first put them into effect. And everybody said, I think these are illegal. And then he started pocketing the money. And everyone was like, I don't. And it took the wheels of justice a long, long time to come around and be like, oh, wait a minute. They are illegal. It took about a year, it turns out. And now they have to, the U.S. government has to refund all of these tariffs. So this is a bad situation for all of these companies, for all of these consumers. And it is only because of one man. And I want to make sure that that's true here. I want to make sure everybody knows. It's only because of one man. We're not getting around politics here. It's just because of our president. That's it. And Nintendo is well within their rights to say all the things they said. That's the worst part of this.
Also, a little bit of point of context here or some history. Nintendo has done something like we're proposing before. And it happened back in the 3DS days. And I don't know if y'all remember, this was way back in like 2011, but they cut the price of the 3DS because it started at like $250. And then those of y'all might remember, they cut it to like $160, $170. And so everybody who had bought the 3DS at the original higher price, Nintendo did like the ambassador program where they gave them like 20 free games and you got a little certificate. So they did try to make it right for all, not the exact same situation, but in the context of you purchased this for a lot more than what we're selling for it now. We know you kind of got a little bit of a raw deal. Here, we're going to try to make it right. Sony, when they got hacked, remember they gave you like I feel like I got a free copy of Infamous or something during the big Sony hack a long time ago. So there's a precedent for this, and they really should. Maybe they don't want to give it like cash back, but do something. Like when I worked at the movie theaters, we would give you like a free pass if you complained about the movie enough. Like we didn't give you your cash back ever, but you got a free pass.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting from Nintendo. You're not going to get anything with serious monetary value, but yeah, a freebie, maybe a discount on a game or something like that. Yeah, Nintendo Shop credit. You get into a problem because that's only the U.S. territory. Other regions would then feel burned, especially if the Switch 2 in their region was the same cost as US dollar ours, but somehow we get a discount because it was inflated because of tariffs, etc. So I know it gets a little bit murky, especially when you want to make everyone happy. What I see this is, I'm curious how Nintendo's going to address this, because I'm glad you brought up the 3DS, because that was back during the Satoru Iwata days. And he was quite a bit more civic-minded, I think, about how Nintendo operated as a company and how they treated their customers. Now we have Furukawa in there, and we have no read on him at all. I don't think he hasn't been nearly as outspoken or philosophical about how he intends to run the company as Iwata was. Iwata was very clear about his blue ocean philosophy, and very kind of, like I said, justice-minded about how they treated their customers. So we'll see. I think this is going to be another interesting telling point for Furukawa, or how Nintendo is going to be operated under him as a president. I also just think I don't know, is it a different world now? I'm a bit scared that Bruce is already nodding. Everybody's nodding shit. There just may be no emotion in corporate maneuvering anymore. I think Nintendo may wisely judge that the world is too cynical to give a shit, and that everyone's just going to move on and forget about it. And that Mario makes his happy little sounds, and everybody gets over any frustrations they may have had. Like, if Nintendo just kind of puts this under the ground and moves on, everyone's still going to buy Pokemon. So that may be where their heads are at. But I don't like that. I certainly miss movement. I certainly miss the moves that Iwata used to do, like docking himself in pay when Nintendo had a bad year, things like that. That meant something to me. But I also get pretty emotional about stuff and about video games, and especially about where the rubber meets the road. I think a lot of people can speak a big game, but I think it's something different to actually do something about it. And Iwata was a very action-oriented person, and he ran the company according to what he said, which is so rare in this world. So, I wistfully hoped that some shred of that may still be around. I'm worried that it's gone. Yeah,
Iwata took pay cuts twice. He did it twice when the 3DS underperformed, when the Wii U underperformed. He cut his salary by like 50%. So he was a true G. Sadly, that CEO, that type of CEO, I know it's more common in Japan, but this is sort of the dark side of Nintendo sometimes, and that is they'll keep a hold of that money if you bought it. That this is full price Nintendo we're dealing with here.
Well, this isn't just so you guys know that. I mean, that's all gone, Lawrence. What you're describing is gone. That's nobody. I feel like there might be one or two companies left that are doing that. Costco's one of them. And also, what you guys are talking about, the 3DS, when they dropped the price, so there's like 5 months after they released it. And then they gave everybody a little bit of a refund. They're never going to drop the price on a Switch 2, just so you know. That price is going to stay at $450. It'll probably go up because of components and things like that. So that was one of the reasons they offered those refunds or whatever they did back then for the 3DS, because the price went down. The price isn't going down anymore. And that's the thing, that's the problem that we're all describing. You're like, boy, I wish Iwata was around and stuff like that. No more companies they are not lowering the prices. They're not. The next thing that's going to lower prices is whatever, deflation, which almost never happens, or a recession or a depression. Those are the things that'll actually lower prices. And in the world we're in now, everybody, you can look at it. Prices went up in COVID. They stayed up. The prices go up for all the, RAM and for all the AI data centers. They've all bought up all the components now. Those prices are going to stay up. We're never paying lower prices unless there's some sort of actual catastrophe, which, by the way, very, very real, could happen. And I'm not saying that I want it to happen, but it is a really, really sad world currently that we are in, where CEOs are squeezing every single last nickel out of people. And you're right. I do wish for the days of Iwata taking a pay cut. That would be great.
Yeah, and I think they lowered the price because the 3DS also wasn't selling super fast right out the gate. So they were doing that to give it a shot in the arm. It was the follow-up to the DS, which was phenomenally popular. So yeah, I remember at the time they couldn't afford to have the 3DS be seen as not having the same momentum. They needed to juice it, and that's what they chose to do. So the counterpoint to that is, even at the higher price, the Switch 2 is selling very, very well. So, Bruce, you talk about CEO squeezing. I think the scary thing is that circumstances are teaching these companies that there's so much more to squeeze, or that people are willing to be squeezed more, that they're willing to reach into their credit cards and buy things on debt or whatever, and just like kind of suffer the consequences themselves. So the companies get to grab the money and walk away with it. And that's just tough nuggets, because no one else is out there trying to do things the old-fashioned way. And then, I don't know. Cynically, I wonder if it would even matter anymore. Do customers even care about that shit? Or is everybody too putting brains for that to matter in the market? I don't know. But that's another topic. Well, hey, thank you all for watching Inside Games Daily. I'm on a different webcam today. I'm in like 2008 quality because my other camera started making some very terrible shrieking sounds when I tried to turn it on. Life of a content creator, but I just wondered if anybody'd be curious about that. So there it is. We still make this show for free somehow, despite all these tariffs flying around. We're waiting for our rebate. Until then, thank you very much for watching. We appreciate any kind of support we get, whether it's just your time or your comments or whatever, or recommending us to a friend. That's always always appreciated. Some folks out there take their gaming bravery one step further and support us directly via our Patreon, so we'd like to shout them out. Thank you very much, Chilled Monkey Brains, Bren Fulton, and Buck. Y'all keep the presses rolling in the Inside Games newsroom, and we appreciate that. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time on Inside Games.